Hello, kids. It is Mr. Fry again. I've got another presentation for you today. The topic today is going to be botany, and what about the plants? The ones we have for food. This might look familiar. Yes, before we talked about roots, different roots that we eat out there. And the ones you would dig up like that with a shovel, and you have to go grab them, pull them out, and clean them up and eat them. Well, we're going to be talking about plants you usually find in the garden again, but this time we're not talking about what's underneath. We're talking about what's on top. And in particular, what on top is the parts of the plants that collect the food for them from the sun, the leaves. There are lots of leaves out there that we eat. And they're quite delicious if you ask me. So let's get on with the presentation here. Let's look at the plants that we can eat, just like this lovely horse is doing right now. Nom, 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 nom. The first one we're going to look at is lettuce. That must be very familiar to you. It probably is one of the most familiar leaves out there that we eat. It's most often used in salads. It's a very, very old vegetable that we eat, and because of its age, there are many, take a look at this, many, many different kinds of lettuce out there. Crisp head, arugula, radicchio, all sorts of great ones out there. Those are all coming from the same plant, but just grown in different ways. Those are all types of lettuce. So let us go to the next topic. This is one of my favorites, spinach. I know some people go, spinach. Oh, no, no, no. Spinach is really good for you. And of all of the leaves we're going to be talking about here, it's probably one of the most versatile. Most common, you can cook it up and with some sauces, and it's really good. Very, very popular with some noodles. Kind of like an additional flavor to what you might be eating. Good old salads, no problem having with that. And people even make like these little, actually called spinach balls. You can see there, they mix them up with maybe some cheeses and some salt, and oh, nom nom nom. So yes, spinach is very popular and very good for you, particularly if you're a sailor named Popeye. Ah, cabbage. Cabbage is another very popular one too. Um, Cabbage is a similar form that lettuce does. If you look at that, it's just layers and layers and layers and layers and layers and layers of leaves. Absolutely packed together very, very closely together. This is why when you pick up a lettuce, they're often quite heavy, lettuce or cabbage. They're quite heavy because they're packed in with leaves. And that's really all they are. You can peel back the leaves one by one, and there'll be one underneath it and one underneath it. So they're very good purchases because you got a lot to eat when you get one. And this is cool too. They come in purple, and they're equally popular if they're purple. And they'll kind of look cooler in salads and get a little purple color. I think they taste pretty much the same. I haven't done the taste comparison, but they're pretty nommy. Ah, yes, kale. That's one of the new guys in the scene. Kale is it's probably one of the most recent ones taken from the wild. Most often you find some in salads, you will, and kale smoothies are unusually popular. And this is one I've seen a lot. They haven't advertised these things with spinach or with lettuce or cabbage, but they seem to convert themselves well into chips. People dry them out or bake them and make chips out of them, kale chips. Apparently they're pretty good too. I haven't had them myself, but it's an interesting way to eat a leafy green that most others aren't available in, is in the form of chips. The last one actually also is kind of neat. It's still recently taken from the wild. Dandelions. Now, dandelions, many people consider weeds, but these weeds also have delicious leaves on them. You don't want to eat the ones all the time from the wild because they might have pesticides on them. You really, really, really would need to clean them. They're still best bought in the store where you know they've been brought up properly and they're clean. And yeah, they're quite delicious. Most popular in salads. Sometimes you use them for garnishes on the side because they're very pretty. But equally good for you. And like I said, they're more recently taken from the wild than other things, even more so than kale. You can technically go and get them from the wild, but I'd buy them from the store if I were you. Alrighty. So if there's something I want you guys to get out of this presentation, other than the fact that their leafy greens are delicious, is you might have seen a trend with my other presentation in roots about how the ones that we eat are so different from the ones you might see in the wild. For instance, this is a head of lettuce you might buy in the store, but if you're walking through the woods, maybe you might find this. This is lettuce too, but it's wild lettuce. Cabbage, that's what you might find in the store. Out in the wild, it's going to look like this. Spinach, That's what it's going to look like when you buy it at the store. That's what it's going to look like out in the wild in the woods. So you can see big differences here. And here's kale. Kale actually looks a little bit like its wild counterpart, a little bit more. What's happened here is that people have found plants that taste pretty good in the wild. This would have happened sometimes hundreds, sometimes thousands of years ago. And they start growing them in the gardens. But then they start showing traits that they think make them easier to grow, bigger and more nutritious, better tasting. And when they get those, they grow those ones. And if it doesn't taste as good or it's not as strong, they don't grow them. So over time, it's a source of unnatural selection. It's unnatural because we are choosing which plants survive and what they're going to look like. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because what we end up with is stronger, better tasting, probably easier to package and grow, and often more nutritious varieties than you would find in the wild. This is a very common trend in most vegetables that we eat out there. And so when you go walking through the woods, don't be expecting to find a head of lettuce sitting on the ground or a pack of cabbages. This doesn't happen. You're going to find those in gardens. So which is the best for you? They all have some vitamin A. They all have fiber. They have potassium, vitamin C. They have vitamin K. They have folate. They have more and more and more nutritious things. You know what? When people ask me which one's the best for you, I say eat them all. Eat them all. They're delicious. They're all good for you. Don't pick and choose. If you find a leafy green on your plate, eat it. It's good for you. So keep eating them. Keep enjoying them. And let's talk about your follow-up work. Do you remember with the roots I asked you to make a recipe that had roots in it? This time, I want you the same thing. I want you to make a salad. With your parents' help, you choose what leafy greens might go in it. If you can, make a salad. I'm assuming you'll be able to get your hands on some of these ingredients. Brew up a salad with the leafy greens that you choose and send me a picture of it and let me know what you think. Was it delicious? What dressing did you put on it that you really liked it? What else did you add to it? Because salads are really good for you and their main ingredient are almost always some form of leafy green. So give that a shot. Let me know how it goes. Thank you for watching this video. You guys take care of yourselves. This is Mr. Fry saying goodbye again, and I'll see you again soon. Bye. Finish. It's naughty.